Chapter 19. Getting Ready for Married Intimacy. In the course of counseling, one occasionally encounters a couple whose marriage has not been attended by complete physical intimacy. In one such case, the two people had been married 2 years. More astounding, neither of them was aware that complete physical intimacy is quite common among married couples. Both had been reared in extremely sheltered atmospheres. The boy was a minister's son, the girl had been reared by maiden aunts. They were completely naive about sexual phenomena and had no understanding of what was giving them the feelings of frustration from which they suffered. How important is sex in marriage? Does it have much to do with the happiness one derives from marriage, or is sex merely important in reproduction? While sex may not be the most important factor in marriage, it frequently makes or breaks a marriage, and a satisfying adjustment on the level of physical love is closely associated with marital happiness. Perhaps the most important thing in making a marriage successful is the determination of both mates to make the marriage work. Companionship and the mutual working out of problems together are the fruits of happy marriages, but couples are rarely good companions if they have repressions or fears or maladjustments which thwart their achieving a satisfying unity on the physical level. Some experts have estimated that during the first few years of marriage, nearly half of married happiness depends on the sexual adjustment achieved. This does not seem unreasonable because sex provides the first rush of desire that launches the marriage and continues to integrate the couple and bring a sense of harmony to their union. As the years pass, couples achieve an increasingly satisfying adjustment, and the union of their bodies at frequent intervals in climactic pleasure provides a bond between them. The experience is also important in reducing the tensions that develop in both mates during the course of their daily living. These tensions are of many kinds, but they include the sexual tension which results from hormones being poured into the bloodstreams of both the man and the woman. The exhilarating orgasms that come as a climax in successful coitus break these tensions and produce satisfying feelings of relaxation and serenity. One of the misfortunes of modern marriage is that so many married couples are not able to achieve a satisfactory sexual adjustment. Studies have shown that at least a third of all wives rarely experience orgasm, and at least half of all wives do not experience it with any great regularity. The major reasons for their failure are: most wives are more inhibited and repressed than their husbands. Most young wives have less actual sex drive than their husbands. The husbands, in too many cases, are inconsiderate of the wife and are primarily concerned in achieving satisfaction for themselves. Too often sex, instead of being a bond, becomes a quarreling point between the couple. Both are resentful. Such feelings tend to increase tension rather than reduce it. Because sex is so vital to the happiness of a marriage, we suggest that both of you and your mate read a good book on sexual adjustment, so that you will know what to expect and won't be frightened by the thought of it. The girl, and perhaps the man, can learn a great deal by taking up the matter at length when she goes for a premarital physical examination a week or so before the wedding. She can ask the physician questions about sexual matters and clear up any points that trouble her. He can describe for her the sensations she can expect to experience during the physical intimacy. At the time of the examination, she can also discuss any fears she has of immediate pregnancy before their marriage has a chance to become stabilized. He may suggest contraceptive devices or techniques to eliminate that possibility, and may take her pelvic measures to see if the pelvis is too narrow for normal childbirth. Most engaged couples want to know about contraception, and the average young doctors and nearly all gynecologists are well equipped to give such information. Couples should be careful to thresh out this matter of contraception before marriage because religion sometimes causes them to have strong and dangerous differences of opinion about it. The problem of whether to have or not to have children and when to have children should definitely not be left to chance. Most religious leaders are now in agreement on that. For those couples whose religion forbids contraceptive devices, the rhythm method can be followed, although this method is not recommended for couples whose religion permits them to use other methods. Another thing the bride-to-be may discuss with a doctor is her hymen, which is the traditional mark of a virgin since it stretches across the entrance to her vagina. Incidentally, the absence of the hymen as an obstacle is no evidence of non-virginity, since it can be disrupted in childhood without the girl's knowledge or through medical examinations. If it is so thick that discomfort may be experienced during first sexual intercourse, or if it prevents intercourse entirely, the doctor may prescribe a simple treatment. All couples entering marriage should understand that intercourse is not something people do by instinct, but is a learned procedure, and that it takes about 3 to 6 months for the typical couple to work out a thoroughly satisfying adjustment. Many brides have all sorts of baseless fears that must be dispelled. There are 3 distinct phases to a sexual experience between a man and a woman, and many of the difficulties arise because the man slights phases 1 and 3. The first phase is that of arousal. The husband and wife caress each other and become physically and psychologically ready for a merging of their bodies. This first phase should not be hurried. It is especially important that the husband remember this, because a woman's passion arouses much more slowly than a man's, particularly during the first few years of married life. By allowing plenty of time for the woman, the couple can help equalize the differences in sex drive. The presence of erect nipples is an indication that the woman is becoming aroused and may be receptive to further advances. Phase 2 is the actual coitus. In the early days of marriage, this should be engaged in gently. Later, both may be able to enjoy the tumultuous vigor of unrestrained physical intimacy. The husband should not forget during intercourse to tell his wife how much he loves her, how wonderful he thinks she is, how much delight she is bringing him, nor should the wife feel hesitant or bashful about doing likewise. If either can make suggestions to the other that will lead to greater enjoyment, both should feel free to do so. It is only by loving frankness and unashamed cooperation that husband and wife are to be able to achieve the beautiful harmony and the exquisite pleasure that only a satisfying sexual adjustment can bring them. In many cases, unfortunately, the husband, because of strain and fatigue, will arrive at his orgasm almost immediately. The average couple, after some experience, find that actual intercourse usually lasts about 5 to 10 minutes. Some wives require 10 minutes or 15 minutes before they are able to achieve orgasm. Some men, perhaps 1 in 7, are unable to hold back ejaculation for more than 2 or 3 minutes. All couples can bring their orgasms closer to each other if they try to accommodate themselves to each other. The ideal is for both man and wife to have orgasms simultaneously. Orgasm from a man comes with the flooding or ejaculation of seminal fluid. For the woman, orgasm is marked by the sudden relaxation of the muscles in her genital region. It is accompanied by a feeling of great tension reduction as well as great pleasure. Now we come to phase 3, which should not be slighted. It is a sort of postlude, an after of the storm. The average wife derives exquisite pleasure from feeling herself and her husband relaxing. Further, in this phase, the wife wants to be held closely by her husband and to be told that he loves her. She wants to be made to feel that he loves her for what she is, all the qualities that she has, all the traits that she possesses, and not alone for the sexual thrill that she has just given him. We might give the husband a practical suggestion at this point by telling him this. If his wife is slow in reaching an orgasm, he can help her to reach orgasm more rapidly by making this postlude just as delightful for her as possible by being tender and romantic. Without realizing what is happening, she will strive to achieve orgasm for the pleasure she derives from this deep and sincere appreciation that comes afterwards. Most young wives do not have an orgasm in the early days of marriage, and so should not be distressed if they do not experience it on the wedding night. In Terman's study of several hundred wives, less than 25% stated they had orgasm at first intercourse. Another 25% said they experienced it within a few days or weeks. Another 25% roughly stated that they experienced it somewhere between the first month of marriage and the 12th month, and the remaining wives said that they had either never experienced it or did not experience it until 1 or more years after marriage. In scoring these same women on their marriage happiness, Terman found that those women who did not experience orgasm within the first year were significantly less happy in marriage than those who had been able to achieve it within the first year. More than half the happiest husbands and wives seemed to be those in marriages where the wife had orgasm within the first few months of marriage. It should be remembered, however, that the presence or absence of orgasm is not necessarily a criterion of marriage happiness or unhappiness. While absence of it is clearly an obstacle for many couples, it is not a major cause of unhappiness in marriage, providing that it does occur within the first year. The happiest couples seem to be those where there is complete or fairly complete tension reduction experienced in intercourse, whether an orgasm occurs or not. What are the obstacles to happiness as far as sex is concerned? Terman found that many unhappy husbands complain most frequently about such things as these. Wife shows too little enthusiasm. Wife cannot regularly reach an orgasm or is slow in reaching it. Wife desires intercourse too rarely. Wife not physiologically ready for intercourse. Wife has too little regard for the husband's satisfaction. Wife does not express enough tenderness and consideration. It was found that unhappy wives complain about such things as these. Husband has orgasm too quickly. Husband desires intercourse too frequently or too rarely. Husband wants to go to sleep or get up too soon after the climax. Husband shows too little enthusiasm. Husband does not caress affectionately during the preliminary phase. Husband expresses too little tenderness. If you wonder about the importance of physical love in marriage, you might remember that very few husbands and wives are unfaithful to each other if their passions are satisfied and if mates are considerate of each other's needs. The marriage counseling service at Penn State has not found a single case of separation or divorce among couples who have achieved and maintained sexual harmony since the early weeks of their marriage.